a very warm welcome. I'm Ruchi Sharma and we are here at the ABC-Conclave 2023 in Dubai, and I have with me a very special guest, Mr. Jake Seltzer, CEO and co-founder of Amethyst Tokenized Asset Platform. Welcome to 3.0 TV, Jake.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
So Jake, the tokenization market is growing at a rapid pace, and it's going to tower, according to the BCG report, it's going to tower $16 trillion, which is 5 times the gold. What is your view on that, and how will tokenized markets, change how financial markets are working, or functioning in terms of increasing liquidity in illiquid assets?
Yeah, it's a great question, and so I feel as the space matures and grows, and as we see more regulatory compliance businesses and the models moving sort of with BlackRock and Citi, and so we've seen a lot of these larger institutions sort of come into market, and that has provided a lot of confidence for the smaller venture funds and high net worth individuals to sort of enter into this market. I think of what we had seen in between 2017 and 2022 was a focus on the utility model, and I think there was a lot of rug pull and scams that sort of prevented a lot of growth in the space and sort of deterred a lot of users from entering in. And what we're seeing now is a governmental focus on providing regulation and user protection and consumer protection rights that allow individuals to feel a sense of comfort when they're entering this space and entering into this market. So as you had said before, there's reports claiming, $16 trillion in assets, and these are just preliminary reports. I think we're going to see a lot more as we start to bring liquidity into markets such as Africa, Southeast Asia, India, right? And so I think as these markets continue to grow and we see more user flow and we see more venture funds come in, I think that we'll see a lot more liquidity enter markets that are essentially considered illiquid now because of a lot of the different barriers of entry.
So how do you think will tokenization change the real estate sector or any other sector?
Yeah, I think you see it here directly in Dubai, right? Between tokenized assets entering the market, where we see fractional representation of ownership, where if I'm an individual who maybe has $10,000 to invest, right? As long as I meet the accreditation lines, I'm able to purchase a number of different real estate pieces. So I think we're seeing a revolution within real estate and tokenization, where it is providing a market where different users who may have not had these sort of opportunities before are sort of entering this market. And so rapid growth has really occurred due to the fact that we are really experiencing a whole new wave of investors that are coming in and making it more accessible for the average investor to sort of invest into these properties. Because look, if you have $1 million investment, it's hard sometimes to fill that. And so, buying a $10,000 fractional asset. And so I think we're seeing even large projects like Gnome and the Line project, where you're seeing these like small percentages of fractional assets sort of entering the market. And so I think it's been incredible for the real estate. I think we'll continue to see growth within the real estate sector, especially when it comes to tokenization and securitization. And I think as regulation, and again, kind of going back to that consumer protection rights, I think we'll see a lot more growth within the sector, especially within real estate and commodities.
So can you highlight a few of big major projects and some use cases?
Yeah, absolutely. So Neom, the Line project is one, right? So they're tokenizing 1% of their equity. I think we've seen actually a Four Seasons hotel that's being done in Thailand is being fractionalized as well. So I think you're seeing a lot of major corporations such as like Hilton and Four Seasons and different projects. And I think even smaller sort of things like Ahmad now is currently in discussions here in Dubai about fractionalizing some of their real estate. And so I think you're seeing new growth opportunities within larger companies who sort of see and recognize this model as something they understand and sort of moving into the space. And so I think for when we talk about growth and when we talk about certain projects, right, there's a larger sort of play at hand here, which is as these sort of large institutions and large investors come, there's a sense of confidence that come and trickles down. And so I think as we continue to see this growth, I think it'll continue to explode. By 2050, they say fractional will make up around 10% of the total market within the Gulf and Southeast Asia. So I think we're seeing explosive growth sort of globally and in areas where investments are a little bit maybe harder to come by than say the US or Canada. So I think this is providing, kind of going back to what you were saying before in terms of adding liquidity to sort of essentially illiquid markets. And so I think we've seen the growth between Thailand and Malaysia. You're sort of seeing this tokenization growth, and prices have skyrocketed, right? And so it's been great for the investors because they've been fantastic investments. They're safe, at the end of the day you hold these hard assets. And so I think it's really been honestly quite revolutionary for what we're doing here in the tokenized space.
So what kind of regulations do you think this space needs? And the BIS and the World Bank, they want more and more countries to come together and form a consensus on standard regularization. What are your views on that?
I think without government involvement, we will continue to sort of see a lack of accountability. So without this accountability, the growth will be intensely difficult to sort of come by. And so I think without a certain set of government regulation, and now we don't want overreach, right? Because when there's too much regulation, it kind of inhibits growth. And so I think we need to find that perfect sort of middle ground. And I think we've seen a lot of that kind of going toward like central bank digital currencies, like we've seen with China with ECNY. And so I think that there's a lot that's sort of happening on state levels and federal levels that are kind of aiding to the growth of what we're seeing on a very sort of macro and micro level, right? So I think as we continue to sort of move forward into these regulatory approvals and as we continue to sort of grow within the space along with governments and not sort of against the governments, I think that we're going to see a lot more of explosive growth, and I think we'll see a lot more mainstream acceptance.
So there's also a debate between, Dubai, Hong Kong and Singapore to become the Web3 hub. Your views on that?
Oh, well, I might be a little bit biased. I think Dubai is the leader, but I think what we've seen in Hong Kong, especially with Hong Kong FinTech Week coming up in November, I think we've seen a lot of government acceptance in Hong Kong and sort of an approach that has really been sort of comforting to a lot of founders like myself. And so we feel a certain level of acceptance sort of kind of interacting with these different state levels. But I think here in Dubai, it's just a matter of time before they sort of step up. And quite honestly as well, I think you're seeing it in KSA, like Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They've had explosive growth in the last 3 years. And so, I mean, obviously MBS has done a terrific job, but I think as we continue to see governments becoming involved on a very major level, I think we'll see a lot more growth in the space. And so I actually have a different answer. I actually happen to think Saudi Arabia will take the center stage. But yeah, that's my personal view, and I look forward to all of them becoming part of the topic and conversation. So
that's great. So lastly, your message to the Gen Z, who's planning to enter into this space and who want to make their career in this and earn a decent living.
I think find something you're passionate about. When you wake up every day and love what you do, it doesn't quite feel like work. So find your place. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but I think there's tons of opportunities here. We're seeing it within the tech sector. We're seeing it within the growth sector. I mean, you look at economies like Vietnam. Vietnam has been able to have massive explosion when it comes to sort of these IT houses, and I think we're seeing exactly gaming and different things, right? So these play to earn apps and different things. So I see, huge growth within small and emerging economies, but I think for anybody out there, just find your passion and follow your dreams and kind of just make your way. Things have a way of tending to work out. So yeah, that would definitely be my advice.
Thank you so much, Jake, for having this conversation with us. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to more interviews as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was the the entire conversation. That's all in this conversation for now. This is me, Ruchi Sharma, signing off. Keep watching $3 TV.